Hey everyone, good afternoon. You're gonna have to give me like a minute though. I was watching this period, but it's so funny because I always watch this time of day, like between like 2, 2:04, 2:08, 2:10. I didn't really have high odds though, okay? So, and it's funny how it barely did anything. Do you see that? So I didn't really have super high odds during 2:04, 2:06, 2:08, 2:10. Normally we do. There's some that start opening up around like 2:16. Odds today that I figured had the best odds of clearing the zone was around 2:30, like just before and just after 2:30. And I mentioned it earlier too that we have good odds. Where did that go? Here. So some start as early as like 2:15, 2:16. I don't know if we can actually get into the zone that early, but I guess we can watch like these next 2 minutes here, just at least for some constructive price action. So this is at least better PA than what we had earlier. So let's just kind of watch. We'll watch the 2:18 period too, but this point in the day had better odds for us. Okay, let's see. The good thing is that they did take out 6888 during like the 130 period, but they never took out 6891.25 or 6890.50. There was a stall there, so I did not like that. And I also noticed that they had started that this hour in upper core areas, so it makes sense that obviously they're going to keep this hour in upper core areas, okay, which they did. Like they literally left it between 7.8, 7.6, 8.1, 8.2, 8.4, so on and so forth. The 2 o'clock hour actually opened even a little bit lower, but and not like that much different from where they had closed like 12.59 from 8.3, but like I feel like an 8.1, like, you know how sometimes I say sometimes if you close a bit lower or higher, like it can actually benefit you? This would be like a good example of that. So far 216 giving some volatility back down, which can easily reduce the odds that we have coming up around like that 230 window. That's a lot of range too. This is the period where I expected there to be the most range to start coming in. So at least 5 to 6 points. That should have been enough to get us back up over like these areas here. Let's see. That's a lot of reductions. Do you guys see that? In this range. Something that they could do though is they could also turn this around if they wanted to, like during like this period here, but starting with the 2 p.m. period off at 8.1, that's not really putting us at a head start. This is looking like it's turning into that pinnable afternoon that we talked about, if I'm being honest with you guys. So it doesn't really seem like there's as many odds to bring this back. Like at least to come back and like to get to the zone area and test up here. And like I said before, if we can't break 69.10, 69.18, I would much rather we avoid this area entirely, okay? So, and just kind of keep it pinned in core ranges. Keeping it pinned in core ranges would be between 6.6, 7.8, 7.1, 8.1, 8.5. Better case scenario would be to pin it right at the zone, like right at 8.8 or 9.2. That being said, it kind of constrains us to literally only like 2 points higher from where they're currently stalling. Does that make sense to everyone? This was kind of the last window here that would even give us odds of coming back to retest like highs, is if they were to turn this back around during like the 230 window. So far these reductions are implying that they won't, because this was the first point in turnaround where we could expect some range and volatility. These points here had slightly better odds. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to stream the entire afternoon, but I did want to stream at least this period here. How did you guys end up doing today? How did you guys do overall? Overnight conditions were, I wanted to really avoid going back to 5.2, 5.8, like basically the means. I didn't want to come back here to 6.6, okay, or 6.4, because then volatility would arise. I didn't mind that they did this just before the open, even though, like, because if they did this overnight, then we would have been a much bigger risk in real time today, okay? Like, we probably would have broken or tested 5.2, would have been my thoughts. But that being said, them also taking it back to 5.7 and not sustaining, let's say, above like 6.6, or even, it's not like a huge differential in range, but I feel like this could also be the reason why they're not taking it to 69.15. Okay, that's one. The more constructive areas, if they were going to actually test core ranges, like I said, we would probably have to hold at least that 7.1 to 8.1 range, and that could have gotten us a break to, like, I don't know if you guys can see this here, that could have easily gotten us a break to 69.20. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you guys understand this concept? Like, these are why I would have preferred that they instead held closer to 7.1, okay? Held closer to 8.1. Like, these would have given us much higher odds of getting max ranges. But because they still technically sustained 5.7, 5.8, like they didn't take it fully down, like they did leave a little bit of range, okay? That at least gave us some odds to like maybe come back to like the 69.10 range. But I feel like what they're doing now is they're probably just going to limit this closer to this range in here. And that's exactly what I talked about yesterday too, is if they can't take out the zone, I had a one-on-one session yesterday, but so like remember how I said if they can't clear neutral ranges, okay, it's okay to test the lower end, like closer to like 60, 888, 6894, 6899, 6901, etc. Okay, but maybe pin in these 80s, like in here or like in here. Kind of like think about it like if you're stepping close to like fire or something like that, you're not like, if as long as you're like a few steps back from it, you're not going to get hurt. You don't want to get too close if you can't take it out. Does that make sense? We don't want to get up here if they won't break this area here. But it's okay for us to kind of stay in this area here. I wouldn't consider that a failure. So far this looks extremely pinnable, so I think what we discussed is probably right. This is like the 9.5 point differential, probably like maybe some capped ranges this afternoon too, if they did bring it back in here. And that's exactly what we'd want though. I wouldn't really want it coming back to 69.01, 69.05 if they're not going to take out 69.10, 69.8. Does that make sense to you guys or no? Like, we don't want it getting stuck in the neutral zone again, because that's what caused all this volatility in the first place. So probably need it to at least stay above 7.6, 7.8. the 7-1. I don't know where all the levels got deleted. A lot of things kind of just gave back their profits from the morning too today, which works with what ES is doing. Now looking at this, guys, do you see why them not breaking during like the 1 to 1:30 period is pretty crucial? Like even if you're looking back, even like around noon when they reduced range, but like specifically this 1:30 period, do you see like them stalling here? How this really increased odds of them making this a pinnable session in the core ranges. Core ranges being between 6866 and 6886. Do you guys or no? But it also still gave us a probability, because it did break 88, okay, and 90, to try to revisit during that 2:30 period, but likely reduced range, okay? Like, I don't think it gave us the highest odds of getting back to highs, but I think it gave us some odds of at least maybe trying to come back to, like, that 9, these areas here that we discussed, like 92, 94, 96. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, maybe in this range in here. And typically speaking, where's Vinci? This is actually a very, very good example. Vinci, are you around? Is she here? I remember her asking me something like this like 3 months ago. Today's a good example. Vinci, if you're here. This is a good example of how if we pinned in a bear zone, it's not actually bearish. Okay, this is a good example because of the risk above. Okay, this would be an example of like, you don't want to pin too high if it's not high enough, so you'd rather pin a bit lower. Does that make sense? Like if they take this above 78, 81, 84, whatever, I wouldn't mind if we pinned between 88, 91, 93, okay, even though technically it's a bear zone. It's better than us pinning at 90, 69.01, 69.05, and then stalling. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I remembered, because I'm like, well, not really. Like, that's like sometimes like the case where like, I don't want people to just associate these areas as being bearish. It depends on the market dynamics. Does that make sense? This specific scenario would be that it would actually be better based on the dynamics of us. If we stall here, this would be way worse of us stalling here. Okay, if we stall here, that's way worse unless they gap us up on Sunday. That means we would have pressure to gap open Sunday. Does that make sense? So if they end up pinning us in this area here, they better open us up like up here on Monday, or like immediately take it out. Otherwise, it's going to keep that risk on. So this is a really good example of like a scenario where if you technically pinned in the red ranges, it's not necessarily bad. I don't know how I remember that, to be honest. All right, what do you guys think? You think that they're going to try getting some structure breaks here during this period, or you think that they're going to keep this stuck? It, yeah, or volatility of us like stalling again, right? And we don't want to stall 16. We don't want to not break 69.20s. So far, this is looking pretty stuck unless they can like immediately bring this back and trigger back over like 8.4, 8.3 or something. So I would say that this very first stick at 230 probably needs at least 8.3. I feel like if it can't even get that high, then we can already start figuring out the odds are decreasing. Like maybe 8.275, like within these 2-minute frames. Like basically at least back to here. Otherwise, that's going to make it pretty hard to try clearing around this time. So far, price action still looks pretty weak. This looks very pinnable, guys. I'm sorry. Like, based on how this is trading, I can tell that this is pinnable, but we'll give it the few minutes just to kind of see. Also, based on where we held to. Like, these kind of holds, like, these are not bad holds, but like I said before, if we avoided it entirely, it would have been even better. Like, that was our structural support at 5.2, 5.866, but avoiding it would have increased odds of us actually getting those bigger breaks today. There isn't even that much pressure for that to happen today anyway. The only sort of pressure we had for today, I guess, was trying to break 8.4, 8.6 overnight and then maybe enter zone ranges between like 88 and 90, 92. So far, this is looking pretty stuck. We also opened lower this hour too, which doesn't really help us. I don't think we have anything left today. We have consumer credit at 3. The only other case scenario I thought of was if they actually did want to pin this in the zone is we probably need to try breaking the zone range by 3 o'clock. So at least the last hour has odds of being above 8.7, 8.6, 8.8. Does that make sense? Otherwise, it makes sense that each hour they're keeping it open, closing around 81, 78, 84, that they're going to keep it stuck beneath 8.8, 8.6. This is the midpoint between this period around 3.334. So I guess we'll see if it tries making a bit of a turnaround. Are we upset though if it ends up being pinnable at core areas, guys? Let me just move this down. Yeah, it is, but it's part of the theme, so it's not the worst case. It could be boring today, but it would make for a really fun Monday, Tuesday potentially. So I think. Oh, thank you. Like the one on YouTube? Thanks, Creaser. I should probably do like more actual recorded videos, not just like streams, like live streams. Because I feel like I can share way more information when I'm not trading live. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, live is one thing, but my brain isn't like focused on something at that time. So far, this is looking pretty stuck. This is kind of the last window I had for some odds to open up here. Otherwise, maybe we'd have to like wait till these odds for this period are not even that high anyway, because of where they even open this. Like, they opened this period around here somewhere. It was like close to like 82, yeah, 8275, 81. Where's Matt? Thanks. Thanks, guys. I don't even know if I tagged the right person. I have that streamer mode is turned on, and when that thing is turned on, I can't see anyone's user handles. And I never turn it on. I don't know why it always turns on by itself. It's kind of annoying. It's funny too because usually this period is like the one period in the day that can somehow give like probabilities for extension and range. And look at how condensed this was. Do you guys see the 2 to 212 period this afternoon? So they really are trying to keep this stuck. But at least we knew that this would be the case as early as literally Wednesday, right? That they could easily just keep this pinned between, well, kind of depending on how high they were to take it, like either keep it pinned between like flat around here, This would have been the case if we had back tested the 20s yesterday. Does that make sense? Like if we had gone a bit lower yesterday to here, they probably would have made it more pinnable at basically where the week opened, okay? Like closer to like 5.5, 5.8, 5.6, 6.6, whatever. But because we sustained here and we held this area overnight, higher odds of keeping it pinnable in basically in this white box here. Ideally above 7.8, 7.1, 8.1. That would be the best area to keep it. But that being said, that means that we're not going to move for the next hour. Okay. These are all things that kind of helped odds a little bit. So you can like roughly like 16, 17 points. Okay. Probably want to stay out. This should equate to 7.1. 7.2, yeah, it does. Okay, so we don't really want to lose that area though into the close. But that being said, that also gave us those odds of getting those structure breaks like above 8.8. Do you guys see that? Like close to 16, 17 points. I hate this cursor sometimes. Does this make sense to you guys? It's basically like 68, 20 sustaining. Okay, net like basically 16, 17 points above our zone. Okay, or like above core areas like 6, 6, 8, 8, 4, 6, 6, 8, 1, 6, 6, 8, 6. So like they could have easily stalled around those ranges there. But it's also the reason why we're not going to get 69.21. Isn't that interesting? And also the reason why they're likely not going to keep it pinned between these areas here. Okay? Like 550 and 5.1 is where the means start. Do you see that? Look at that 6.6 hold. Do you see it? It's exactly 16 points. So, and that's at the means. So now it's very important that they try holding above like 7.2, 7.3. And considering they held here in real time, it seems like there's better odds around 6.8, 8.2, 7.5. And ironically enough, that's where they keep opening and closing these hourly lots, okay? So we'll have to see if they reset this for 3 p.m. Because if they do, where's A2? A2-ish. That's where we'd be exactly what I said. Basically limited to like 68.99, 69.0, 68, 94, 96. Basically that bear zone. Isn't that cool? And the differential between that's going to likely be, if they actually broke that, that's how we'd have odds of filling the neutral zone to 69.14. Which I highly doubt that they would do that based on how this is trading and how this traded during these periods. right, let's start doing some odds here. So we already figured that the 2 to 3 p.m. period is pretty constrained, especially based on where they open. The PA that occurred around like that 2:30 period, that 2:16 reduction stick. This is really what took it down, is this, because that was the earliest ought to come back. So who here thinks that they can reset odds for 3 p.m.? That would mean basically where we'd have odds of getting 6888 to 6899, like kind of like that final zone. I'll set this to 5 minutes for you guys to vote. A lot of that's going to be based on where they close this hour and obviously where they sustain. There's a lot of support around the 7273 area right now. I'll probably need to make this. Can you guys vote on that, please? Where did they open this hour? And 2 o'clock closed here. That's where they stalled too. They couldn't even get back over the hourly interval back here. And that's right at our 8-1 spot too. And that 8-2 area is calculated based off the 16-point ratios we just looked at. Do you see that? That's interesting. All right, let's get some more votes. I would imagine that the votes would probably be 50-50 because the market's conflicted, so I would imagine people would be conflicted. Bank of America had a really good ramp this morning, and it actually engulfed, and then it kind of came back. I'm going to just watch this into the close, though, to see if they can bring it at least back to this range in here. A lot of things kind of just stalled. So I would say that for that to be the case, we need some strength around 248, 250, that 255, 56 period, and probably ideally at least back to here, and then try breaking that 8-2 structure right here, because technically speaking, 8-2 is linked back with that range. So this is probably the area that they'd have to try taking it back to. Obviously, getting back over the zone would make the most sense, but getting back over the zone I think is what would give us odds of retesting highs, which so far is pretty limited. Brendan, we do not want this. Okay? If they're not gonna do anything here, at least keep it between 7-8, 7-1, 7-8, 8-1, 8-4, okay, 8-5. Ideally upper core, 7-8, 8-1, 8-6. Even if that means them literally doing absolutely nothing for the next hour. I don't care even if they do this. I would rather that than them taking it back to 6-6. We want a good close today, okay? so that we can have the best odds for Monday, Tuesday. No, because that's not tradable. We don't want that. We want a 60. We want a 66 to 88 point move Monday, Tuesday. Better than getting like a 12 to 20 point move today. Right? Let's. I know it kind of sucks, but this is like a good example of like patiently waiting for a trade setup. Okay, this is a really good example. Like we want to be patient today for Monday, Tuesday, and for next week, and for basically for all-time high odds. Okay, we don't want to screw up our all-time high odds, even if it means staying stuck today. So far, 248, 250 are trying to retrace. 68.80 being retested here. They stalled just a tiny bit. We'll see if we get these range breaks. Do you guys understand why I said closer to 80.50 and 82? You don't have to necessarily get back to the zone to test these areas. You just have to at least get back to the area that could reset you, basically. Just so that there's no confusion with what that pull was. Okay, I wasn't asking if we're gonna get back to 68.88 or 99. I was asking if we're gonna reset the 3 p.m. period, which this would be resetting it, because this would open up the odds again for them to potentially bring it back to here and maybe these areas here. Okay. And then that's how we'd know if they're going to pin upper core areas or if they're going to try pinning the lower part of the zone or like right at the zone. All right, let's see. Let's see what they do here. 68.82 being retested here just ahead of 3 o'clock. I don't have it marked, but we can definitely watch the 54 stick. There was a flip at 56, which is why I marked that. Maybe you'll get a 20-point move up, Brendan, off 7-8. Technically speaking, if they brought it back to 9-6, that's 20 points. Everything's condition based, guys. I don't believe in hoping for something. Well, you have to also remember too, Slipperman too, that they could do absolutely nothing. They could also do nothing, right? Because they left the window. They left 6.788, 68.01 on the table too. Okay, and they also left 68.22 to 68.28 now. There's room for downside on both ends, and there's still room for upside. Upside is basically 69 14 to 69 24, 69 32. It should be pretty similar in range on both sides. Reduction stick off the 5.5 or 5.3, sorry. Not by much, but still, every 1.5 matters right now, especially with this kind of shitty range. That would have gotten us the break of 8.3. So let's see, 54 getting some traction here on an 8.2 break. I had the highest odds at 56 since that's an actual flip. So I guess if they did it at 5.5, a minute ahead would be better, because then we could extend at 5.6. How much time is left in this candle? Delete this. Okay, let's see. $256 triggering 688 250. The very first 5 seconds of that candle opening. Do you guys see this? 68, 82, 75. Right on time. This is going to be decent for odds. All right, let's see. Let's see if they can actually close above that or clear it. If they do, then we're looking kind of closer to like this area in here. Okay, I'm just going to delete this so I can actually see it better because I can't really see. Final few seconds. What do you guys think? Quickly. Do they close above that 688275? That would really help odds for resetting, especially this stick here. They might do it final seconds. Look at it. Isn't that insane? How the market is so aware of that. Now you can start clearing a little bit. Okay, let's see if we get some better structure breaks here ahead of 3. So I figured like closer to like the 8.4 area, this area in here. Which I didn't mark it down, but I think that was pretty close to where they closed and opened the 1 o'clock period. Yeah, it is. This was the 1 o'clock period right here. Okay. Somewhere in here. So if they can break that like ahead, you see how it's kind of constrained within those ranges between 8.3, 8.4, then it can easily try resetting back to the zone. I don't know if we're going to get a full zone reset, but I figured at the very least they can try taking out 82.75 and 84. If they can take out this area by 3, then we have some odds of getting back to retest high of day. Okay, I'm going to focus a bit on my positions, guys, okay? I'm going to delete these. So they did break these crucial areas. These are the spots that left 1 and 2 p.m. stuck, okay? So just think of it as like it could basically override another hourly period from happening like this. Thanks, Vincy. Well, yeah, we just want to do not nothing, but like not, we don't want to reduce our odds for next week. So far, they're keeping it closer to that 8275, 8384, which is fine. Like I said before, like even if they kind of kept it around this box here, we don't necessarily need here before 3 to get a retest of here, but we need it at least around this area here, okay? In this like box range here. Over 8586 would have been better. We'll see if they can hold the line here at 59. I'm going to mute myself if that's okay. And make sure you watch the first 5 minutes post 3 o'clock, okay? Because this should give us an idea of how they might trade this last hour.